All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Going to be breaking down all the best plays here for today's NBA DFS slate, as well as giving you guys my first look build and then comparing that against what the 9-to-5 lineup optimizer is telling us that is the best build. Let's go ahead and get into it. So guys, for the most part, we have gotten most of the news that we need to get on this slate in order to make some good educated decisions. But as always in NBA DFS, the news will be updating throughout the day and we'll see if anything ends up changing. That being said, really the top play on the slate, I don't think is necessarily going to change in regards to like value. And so if we look at the top values right now, guys, it's going to be Diaby for the Charlotte Hornets. And that's specifically because we're going to notice that Mason Plumlee and Ryan Kalkbrenner are still out, guys. And so with them being out, you are seeing Diaby get a decent amount more run here, guys. And so he is going to be one of the more appealing plays on this slate just in general. And so projected to get 6.2x value, 26 minutes, has a decent chance to end up getting a double-double if he actually gets more minutes than what he's projected to get here. Per 36-wise, with those two players off the court, he does average a double-double. And the only unfortunate thing for Diaby is that he is center eligibility only. We don't necessarily love that. And it is kind of a more difficult matchup going against Orlando, but overall, we're not too worried about that. And again, if he does end up getting a double-double, we are going to be sitting pretty. Now, after that, what you're going to notice here is that some of the best values, we had a center, quickly. Jericho Sims is interesting as like a punt value play at 3.4, projected to get a decent amount of run. If he does end up getting that much run, he's pretty darn interesting. Sandro is also interesting as a center play if Colin Murray Bowles ends up being inactive there for Toronto. But what we're noticing here with Toronto is that we are getting decent spots there for them. What I also want to call it is going to be the very high over and unders that we have here, guys. So we got the Miami versus Atlanta game, which is an extremely high scoring game. So we want to be targeting players there. And so we look at some like Ware popping up with Tyler Hero still being out, and also Bam is currently questionable. He becomes an extremely appealing play to me. Okay. And if we're going to be paying up for someone, we probably are trying to pay up for Jalen Johnson in that extremely high scoring game. Now, that being said, we do have a couple of other games that are also pretty high scoring. Okay. We have this Utah versus Detroit game, which is very high scoring. And then if we sort it by value, once again, we do have the Suns versus the Pelicans, guys, which is almost a 240 game total there as well. So we do have a decent amount of games that we should be targeting. And so I'll begin to Ware as kind of my utility play here, which I don't necessarily love. I will say I don't love putting two centers from the early games in. You know, that's always kind of a concern because if there's extreme value that pops up later in the day, you want to give yourself the best chance to be able to adjust to that. But right now, as I'm recording this video, I think that's the route that we need to go. And then if we need to, we could put in someone like Jericho Sims instead of one of those two, but that's kind of the issue. We do know that Jericho Sims is a decent value given the amount of minutes that he's projected to get here in this game. And we do notice that even if he gets us like 16 or 14 points, even at this price tag, that would end up being a decent play as a punt play. And so I'll be trying to get to Jalen Johnson here, guys. I do think he's kind of the correct play, especially if we are trying to get some exposure to that Miami versus Atlanta game. And then from there, it's kind of like, do we want to get to Trae Young, who has been going off in the last couple of games? I kind of like that idea as well. You could argue he's a little bit too cheap if he does end up getting 31 plus minutes, which is what he's projected to get. And again, this is a very high scoring game. I kind of like going that route. We also do have Reichester as kind of a decent punt play as well. He's someone that is projecting about 9.5 points. Not ultimately going to do all too much, but also not terrible. I do think he gives us a chance at a solid 5x, nothing really too much more than that. But for now, we'll go ahead and put Trae Young in there. And then we have about 5.1 left over. So we do need to find another punt value here. And so from there, who else could we get to? And what I'm noticing here, guys, is we're not really getting a great punt value. Jarius Walker is really the best one here, and he's only projected to get 21 minutes. But playing him does kind of open up a little bit for us. I don't necessarily love it. We do need him to get 21 minutes. I think we could find other value elsewhere as the day progresses. I guess we could put him in there for now and then hope we get other value elsewhere. But then that leaves us with about 5.7, which does kind of open up a lineup pass a little bit. And so one thing we do need to be paying attention to is whether or not Jordan Poole is going to end up being active in this game. If he ends up sitting, that does create some value for the rest of the Pelicans there, guys. Trey Murphy, Zion both become a little bit more appealing. So does Bay as well. Even Fears as price, it becomes much more appealing. So if Poole were to end up sitting, we do like that a little bit more. And again, that's a game that we want to be targeting. And for what it's worth, guys, like the Utah game that we want to target, that is more of a showdown play. That is not on the main slate here for DraftKings. And then on top of that, guys, calling out the Memphis versus Milwaukee game, Memphis is pretty darn banged up as well. Based off of the spread where Memphis is the favorite to win, I kind of think that Ja Morant is actually going to end up being active in this game. And then you also have Cedric Coward, who's currently questionable as well. If he's active, I like getting to him, especially if Ja ends up sitting, but he is currently listed as questionable. And so if he is out, then we're looking at a lot of kind of interesting spots here. Like Jalen Wells becomes a little bit more appealing, kind of a safer play to, do decent, but not necessarily someone we need to go crazy with. Aldama is someone that would pick up a bunch of usage, and I kind of like chasing the upside that he presents. We do know a 50-point night is in there for him, and so I'm kind of okay chasing that, although it is a lower scoring game. I do kind of want to get to him, and even like center-wise, I don't think we need to get to like Jaren Jackson or Landale, but they're a little bit appealing there as well. And so one player I'll try to get to just from a value standpoint, I think Herter for right now. Again, we're probably going to look to try to update him a little bit more as the day progresses. But as I'm recording this video, I'm kind of okay getting to him. And then if we want to get some exposure maybe to that Miami-Atlanta game, maybe we get to Davion Mitchell. I don't necessarily love that. Bob Carrington's okay as well. I would rather get to like Jaquez, who I do think holds a decent ceiling for us. Like he's the player I'd want to get to, but we're off by 300 here with this build. So what's like an adjustment that we could make? It'd probably be beginning off of Herter there and then going with a better maybe value instead of Walker there instead. So like Trey Johnson, someone that I don't mind. I think he's a decent kind of 5x play as well. The issue with Trey Johnson is like data-wise that doesn't necessarily love him, only about 4x. But again, for this build, I think we're okay starting with him. So we'll put him in there, and then we could potentially upgrade from the 3.5, maybe get to Obaji. Don't necessarily love it. That's kind of it, though. It's like we are punting here right now. Okoro's a sneaky way to kind of get a similar production. So, not terrible there. But that's kind of what I'm looking at for our first look build. Let's go ahead and see what the 9-to-5 lineup builder gave to us as well. And so I went ahead and already ran some of these guys. And so the top lineup that we're looking at right now is Quickly, Kahn, Walker, Jalen Johnson, Diaby, Powell, Wiggins, Ware. And so I really don't mind that. I do think we want to be trying to get to plays from that Miami game and Atlanta game. Maybe we get to one more Atlanta Hawk, but you do see we are getting the top value in Diaby. And then from there, I'm kind of okay with this. It did get to Obaji as a value instead of Walker there. And again, I do think as the day progresses, we'll probably get another value, but I'm kind of okay with that. Here's another interesting one, guys. Kevin Porter, who probably is a little bit too priced up. I will say, I don't know if I necessarily need to get some, but then Powell, Jaquez, Portis. So a little bit of game stack there. Diaby, Quickly, O'Neal, and Ware. So I also don't mind that build. I think that's pretty solid there as well. So that's the thing, though, guys. We are going to get a lot of high-scoring builds here for this slate, which is kind of nice. That being said, it is kind of always interesting there. You kind of need to hit on the one or two values that ends up going off. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you guys would like access to that DraftKings cheat sheet or the optimizer, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to that tool for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.